What is going on, guys, and happy Monday. We have Silver Samurai coming out tonight. Is he going to elevate the archetype that is discard? And is he the most slept on card this month? We're also going to be breaking down September. It's right around the corner. We'll be ranking all the spotlight caches within the month. Which ones are worth saving up for? Which ones you should skip altogether? And taking a look at the new cards. And lastly, guys, we'll be breaking down the top 10 discard cards right now. We'll be doing my votes versus Alex. And of course, we're going to talk about X23, the PC release. We've got a lot to talk about all on this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Alex Coccia. My gosh, what a week for Marvel Snap. Probably the biggest week. We're talking to the runner-up at Twitch Rivals. We had PC launch. Dude, how are you feeling on what is probably one of the most epic weeks for the game?
Yeah, it has been an absolutely insane week for Marvel Snap. I mean, that PC launch is just momentous for the game, momentous for the player base. And of course, it's bringing in a whole bunch of new players that were interested in that PC launch. And just the overall hype around the game with the Twitch drops, which are actually amazing. I really like that Sunspot. It's complete fire, no pun intended. But really, it is a great time to be a Marvel Snap player. There's never been a better time to be a Marvel Snap player.
Okay, your slogan rings true the most ever, I think, right now. Truly. And look, we're going to talk about, there's a lot to break down right now, but you said it right. We have new players. We have returning players. In fact, Marvel Snap had both of us do some type of sponsor video for the PC release. And I did a new players guide. And just looking back at pool 1, pool 2, looking back at the new players experience, we might need to even do a topic maybe next week on beginner decks. It's made me want to use beginner decks in even Infinity Conquest coming up, just because I feel like I've aged beautifully from where I was in all types of deck building and Marvel Snap strategy and not snapping at everything, man. But yeah, what are your initial impressions, thoughts on the PC build? We're gonna break it down more on your side, but just initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts is that it's an amazing first step forward. I think it's a great first step. And the thing that really excites me is we had been hearing in the past, listen, Second Dinner is a small team. And it took a lot of actual human resources to get that system out, to get that PC launch ready. And I can't wait to see how they continue to reiterate on it and improve on it, because one thing the Second Dinner has consistently done is produced good work. Every single time they release something, the polish level, especially with the visual fidelity and just the general quality, tends to be extremely high, right? And so I'm really looking forward to what comes next, because it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of the PC launch and the experience. But just to spoil one thing, I would say that the marketing, guys, there was 250,000 people were watching Marvel Snap on Twitch. We had yourself and Dexter, multiple streamers, well in the number 1 through number 5 category in top live streaming at all. It's crazy. I talk about this all the time. You never realize how big the game is until something like that happens. And then you're like, holy crap. This game's huge. There's a huge casual player base, I think, of Marvel Snap.
The player base is actually so important to this game. And I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that the casual player base is really what keeps it alive, right? We have, of course, the competitive side and the people on Reddit that really take it seriously and really love this game and go into the minutia of strategies, cards, and etc. And that's awesome. Those communities are fantastic. But by far the largest is going to be that casual player base, right? And I don't want them to be forgotten either. And to see them come out full force for those variants is amazing. And I think it was an eye-opening experience, because we like to kind of assume we know what the game looks like, what the health of the game is. And I think that this week showcased just how healthy this game is and just how many players are truly interested in Marvel Snap.
Yeah, and not to mention, the variant system for the game just works with Twitch drops so well, and or just events, right? The Devil Dinosaur here. What a great way to just get a sick hype up. You said the Sunspot. I mean, we had some really cool variants there. Also, man, the opening cinematic, the one they showed at Gamescom, but then also when you open Steam for the first time. Dude, the Deadpool versus Ghost Rider with the Squirrel Girl in there, which I don't know why they're so hung up on it. They love Squirrel Girl, man. It's on all their trailers. I would watch a full Netflix series. I would read a magazine, a comic of it. It works for Snap because of the variants and the different art styles, man. I see other people that they don't even know what Marvel Snap is, buzzing about the animation, dude. That was sick, yeah?
Yeah, it was awesome. And it kind of reminds me of like the launch of Hero, like the music video. Yeah. Now, people that didn't even realize it was kind of an advertisement for Marvel Snap, right? Like he's playing the game at the beginning and stuff like that. And like that kind of marketing is so intelligent. And I think that Marvel Snap is nailing it. And yeah, that what we saw there was a trailer, but it was immensely, fantastically well done. And I hope they do more of that stuff, because I think thinking outside the box and creating that types of quality cinematics really helps to sell people on at least giving the game a try, which I saw streamers and kind of like larger personalities that had not been playing Marvel Snap, they were checking it out. First time player you saw on Twitch, and they were bringing huge audiences, providing exposure to the game. So I do think that this game is in a really healthy spot. And I just can't wait for the future.
Yeah, 4 million views, I think, right now on that animation. So they did sponsor some big streamers to play the game. I was watching some of these bigger streamers, and they're like, yeah, Marvel Snap. And by the end of it, they're like, wait, dude, this is really good. I want to get, like, there's a guy named Hassan who's like, I want to play more card games like Snap. Like, please, can I learn how to play this? This was too much fun. So it reminded me when I got into Snap, right? Like, it just sucks you in immediately, and you forget how fun the game is. Now, we talked about the first topic on your channel. What else are we talking about on your side, Alex?
We're going to be talking about the biggest sleepers in Marvel Snap at every cost. I think this is going to be a really fun discussion, because Cozy and I often bring very different approaches here, and I think that it's going to be great. And then we're also going to talk about the archetype MVPs, the cards that really solidify these different archetypes in Marvel Snap in the competitive meta.
Pardon the interruption, guys, but quickly, as you know, widescreen PC just launched for Marvel Snap. Looks awesome. However, genuinely, my favorite way to play Marvel Snap is on my Galaxy Z Fold 5. I mean, look at this thing. And that also takes us to today's video sponsor, Samsung Galaxy. It's kind of insane that this is a phone now. And Marvel Snap, I gotta tell you, it plays perfectly on it. Now, you might think, okay, the 7.6 inches big screen might be a little too big. I don't know how, but they nailed it. It doesn't feel big, but it also provides enough landscape to get all the snapping you need. And then also, if you're on the go here, you can go ahead and just fold it down and play this way as well. So perfect for whatever type of gaming you're trying to accomplish. Now, we both know looks aren't everything, right? Which is fine. But this thing's also insane in the performance department. It is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, making looking at your variants all that much better. The FPS is insane. It plays seamlessly. Now, the best part is, let's say you get tilted. You just lost 8 cubes to a last-second Shang-Chi. How did that get there? You're pissed, right? This baby can take the heat. It's super durable. It has a next generation Gorilla Glass Victus 2 and armor aluminum. Also, the multitasking, freaking awesome. You can go ahead and look at your favorite variants and get distracted, all while watching your favorite Marvel Snap YouTuber. Sorry. Also, it's got a great camera. It doesn't have a bad battery life whatsoever. And truly, I genuinely mean it. It's my favorite way to play Marvel Snap. So if you're interested in the Galaxy Z Fold 5, you can check the description down below. And thanks again to Samsung for sponsoring today's video. Dude, I'm excited for all 6 topics. Like, listen, let's start with, before we hop into 3 down below here, let's start with X23. We don't have a whole topic for it because there was so much to talk about. But I wanted to briefly say, initial thoughts, initial impressions. I think she's great. She's going to get better. I don't even know if I've seen like overhyped question mark. I think she does exactly what she's supposed to in a destroyed deck.
Yeah, so my first impressions were a little lukewarm. I thought that at first I was kind of really fixated on like the turn 5 and 6 like mega turns, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't get X23 earlier on, then like that snowball effect wasn't happening, and I was kind of getting a little frustrated. Then I kind of realized, like, why force this card to do what it's not designed to do? Why don't I allow it to just be a working cog in a greater machine?
Yes.
And so if I draw it on turn 4, then I'll play it with Killmonger, and then, hey, I got my turn 5-6 combo that I've been trying to pull off the entire time, right? Have multiple lines, and X23 will activate another line to get to that end game. And so once I started to like pull myself back of like the fixation on specific combos and more play a good functional destroy deck that will take advantage of X23 when the opportunity arises, it completely changed, right? I think that actually the decks that you designed near that launch, like the Death X, for instance, I thought really did that. There was so many different winning lines. Like, you didn't need X23 to be in your opening hand to win that with those decks, right? So yeah, I ultimately do find X23 to be a staple in Destroy, and now I'm pleasantly surprised with how it performs.
Yeah, it's like a sneaky, it's like Deadpool in the sense of like, you just like, you want to get Deadpool so big, right? But if you just like have it work in the flow of the deck, it's going to work that much better. And I feel like X23 sometimes allows you to play multiple cards on turn 4, or maybe you can get the Deadpool out with your death or with the null, play the null early because you got to destroy it twice. There's a lot of ways that you can make it work, And then sometimes, yes, you're going to do like the Arnhem Nola. And then it's just like, I win, right? And if it was too consistent, it would be overpowered. I feel like it is as good as you can get without feeling overpowered. It is a very good place. The deck builds are fun. I've played the hell out of the card. Pretty underwhelming in discard, in my opinion. I think you have to kind of force it in there, but we're going to be breaking that down here in just a second. X23, though, definitely love it. It's not too late. You have a few hours if you haven't gone for that spotlight. Speaking of, let's break down our first topic, and we're going to start with the spotlight hitting right now, and that is going to be Silver Samurai, Kitty Pryde, and then lastly, we've got Spider-Man 2099. So, Alex, as we always do, 1 through 5 stars, just kind of from the gut, what do you rank this kind of week of a cache?
To me, this feels like it could be a 2-star. I don't want to sound like kind of like a Debbie Downer, but I mean, Kitty Pryde, I think, is in the hands of most players. If it's not, then this is a great week to get Kitty Pryde, who's still a great card. Yes, it got nerfed, but I still find it is a very strong card in Marvel Snap. Spider-Man 2099 has underwhelmed, and I do think that Silver Samurai is better than people think it is. I think it's not getting the buzz it deserves. But hey, spotlight casts are expensive, so I want to make sure that we don't approach these conversations from too much hype. Like, I get excited about all these new cards, right, and all the new variants. I'm just excited to open new stuff every week. But at the same time, I think it's worth noting that I think this is a bit of a weaker offering compared, especially to what we had last week. Like, last week was wild with X23 Silk, right? Like, that's a wild week. So it's comparatively, I think this is a little weaker.
And weeks in the future. Like, we're about to hit this is our last week before the crazy September. In my notes, you nailed it. I have the exact same thing written down. If you don't have Kitty Pryde for whatever reason and you're in a spot to get spotlights, I actually have this as a 3-star week just because of, maybe it's still even like 2.5, right? Kitty Pryde, very good card. Very good card. I use her in so many decks with Angela. It's like a no-brainer, especially if you're a new player. Just, you don't need synergy outside of pool 1, pool 2 cards. I love that. However, 2099, look, it's not that he's bad. It's just that he's terrible. He just doesn't, dude. I just never picked to play him, man. I've tried to make him work. The combo pieces, he's extremely niche. And ultimately, even if you do some cool, cheeky things with him, I just feel like there's another option most of the time at hand.
I think the major problem with 2099 is the fact that we've made these early turns matter again. Like, each individual turn is so important. So you have these 1s, 2s, and 3 drops that are that have been played. Like, they're on the board. And so 2099 is often not hitting a big piece. And often you want to hold it till later in the game, because do you really want to trade a 1-drop with, I mean, of course, there's some 1-drops you'll trade, you'd be happy to, but you really want to hit Iceman with 2099 on turn 5? Like, what are you actually trying to accomplish? Yeah, you want to hit the Iron Man or whatever, but it just in practice doesn't feel good. Plus, because the RNG element of it, it's been an underwhelming card.
Ultimately, he's a tech card, right? So you have to look at the meta, and right now he's like Gambit. It couldn't be worse, right? You have a Brood and then an Absorbing Man Brood, and there's 6 things to hit, and if you hit 1, it's not that big of a deal. So it depends, right? It's just a flood meta, and if we go back to more of a single play big card meta, which could happen with Eliath, kind of cards like that, then he will maybe make more sense. But definitely, I would hold on. However, we're going to ignore that, and we're going to talk about just Silver Samurai as a card. I want to break him down, what he does to discard, our thoughts, synergy, everything that it revolves around the card, as we always do. And I agree with you, man. I think this guy's the sleeper of the month. He's cool. He's going to be a pretty cool card, and he reminds me a lot like, maybe like Iron Lad, in the sense of, in the decks that he's in, holy freaking crap. But he can ultimately be replaced at the end of the day. I don't know if Iron Lad's the best example, but you're going to see him kind of elevate a deck a good amount, and the deck will be worse without him, but it's still just a good deck at its core, if that makes sense, especially with discard.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that's core about Silver Samurai is that it's discarding the lowest power, which at first glance, I think people will like read through it and just think it's like the lowest cost or lowest, like it's the lowest power. So when you actually think very critically about what that might allow you to do, right? There's certain combo cards that work really well. And there's some things you're gonna be able to counter. Like this is gonna be a nightmare if it becomes meta for like something like Shuri Sauron, because Taskmaster basically can't exist, right? Because Taskmaster is going to get knocked out of a hand. Zola is always going to get knocked out of the hand. So it is very disruptive. Obviously Negative and Iron Man gets a lot of attention, but like, do not lose sight of how low cost cards can be extremely impactful in the meta. I think this card is more disruptive than people are giving it first credit for, and it's honestly not that understated. Yeah, you prefer 4/6, but when you consider the synergies that are available here for Silver Samurai, 4/5 might actually be a pretty decent stat line.
As a base card, Silver Samurai, guys, is a 4/5. And again, the on reveal is each player discards the lowest power card from their hand. Now, obviously, you look at this, Alex, and you go, hey, it's discard. Plug him right into a discard deck. Honestly, man, I think he's going to fit in perfectly into good value decks as well. Even though his stat values aren't crazy, he's going to have this nice curve flow, especially in these kind of Zabu era of builds. And then also, man, listen, most of them are discard, but let's not shy our heads away from just disruption in general, man. You put this guy with like a Spider Ham and an Iceman, and then you've got him going down. You just, all of a sudden, you got Moon Knight, then him. You have absolutely neutered their hand. You've just completely killed what they're trying to do. And I think he's going to have more places than the basic discard. Now, you did bring up a great point that I do want to break down a little bit more. Let's talk about meta-relevant cards that he'll get rid of. So it's the lowest power, right? And I'm going to stick under maybe like 2, maybe 3. Just let's say consistency's sake, right? Like maybe 2. Let's go 2 and down. Big-time cards. You said a great one in Patriot. What he's going to do is he's going to make players not hold on to these cards, right? Patriot players are trained not to play Patriot early because of Enchantress back in the day. And so they hold on till the turn 6, bam, bam, whatever it might be. You're going to have to play some of your bigger combo pieces down or some of your bigger, more important plays down as quickly as possible. And that's where he's going to come in the greatest use. Now, Alex, some of the cards I have here, we've got a Hobgoblin, obviously, with like Galactus. Hood will be more draw dependent, but it's great to be able to get rid of him. One thing I was thinking about is there's a lot of 4-cost cards that he competes with that if they're both played on 4, not so great. But if he gets the Zabu out and he's played on 3, brother, let me just throw this up. If you can manage to play him on 3, Mr. Negative decks are done. They're finished. These guys are snap in turn 1. They got the side lock. They're about to play their Mr. whatever it might be, right? At that point, they could play it on 3, so that was a bad example. But you know what I mean. They're excited to get the Mr. Negative out there. And then you can just get rid of him. And you've ruined what their deck is built behind, right? Do you have any... I have a list, but do you have some off the top of your head, like great cards that just immediately he would shatter?
Yeah, the big one for me that really stands out is Darkhawk. Because Darkhawk is usually not played on turn 3 or 4. Because like if you play Darkhawk on turn 4... like, it's going to be sitting at, like, 12 power. Like, you're like, hey, Shang-Chi, punch me directly in the throat. Like, that's what you're saying as Darkhawk when you play him that early, right? It's like you're baiting Enchantress and Shang-Chi, so you hold it. Like, that's why Zabu exists. So you could so you could Darkhawk Rock Slide on turn 6, or Darkhawk +1 is usually what turn 6 looks like in those decks. Now you can't do that. He's a 4/0 sitting in your hand, just begging to be discarded. And yeah, you played Korg and you played Rock Slide, and all of a sudden your Darkhawk's gone. Well, GG, I guess. Like, it's over.
Yeah, that's why I think he's going to be naturally a great pairing with like something like Enchantress, right? Because what you're doing is in a mirror match, a good cards deck, whatever it might be, you're forcing them to get that play out, especially like Conquest. You know, fool me once, you know, maybe they'll retreat. You get a couple cubes off them. They're like, I got rid of my Darkhawk. We have Enchantress also in the back pocket in the Zabu deck. They're like, we're going to play it early this time. And then you just nuke it with the Enchantress. So it is the ultimate counter to Darkhawk. I think people came in this episode thinking, Alex and Cozy, we're just going to talk about discard. And we're going to say that he is going to have a really good place in there. But I think just as a good card, he exists. And the stat line is going to be reflecting that because he's so much better at disruption than people think. So Darkhawk, awesome example. Even dialing it back. Let's talk about some cards that are just everywhere at the moment, man. Angela. Some people aren't playing her down right away on 2. There's Craven, there's Jeff, there's other competing cards that need to be out there. They'll save her down. If they do draw her, it's a great card to get rid of. In tandem, he's going to work and synergize with this card. But my God, Morbius. Morbius is going to be absolutely screwed in the hands of decks if he's drawn late. Obviously, cards that are lower than 3 cost, 4 cost, are going to have a good chance, to be played. But also, even in discard, man, going back at an old list, you would have, like, Calling Wing. Swarm would be a problem. but you have a lot of cards to kind of think about on 2, so it's not always Morbius on 2. So I definitely think he's going to be able to have an answer. Man, rest in peace again. I feel like I'm saying that on a weekly basis, buddy. I can't even find the card because it's so bad. Oh, it's not bad, but it's bad. Cerebro? When is Cerebro played on 3, Alex?
Never. You don't play Cerebro on 3. Like that's psychotic. You play usually Cerebro on 6, and now we're even playing Magic. So you play Cerebro on turn 7, right? With Mystique or something because you want to guarantee the draw. Yeah, Cerebro definitely takes a kick in the pants here. But it's just like, what do you do? Like, do you just throw out the Cerebro and then try to follow up on turn 4 with Mystique right there and just make yourself vulnerable to Enchantress? It completely flips on the head these like very greedy style decks that are relying on these mega effects to get popped off later in the game.
Yep.
And I think that's a good thing. You need balance in Marvel Snap. Like it's what Shang-Chi does. Like, yeah, people hate Shang-Chi, but like if that card didn't exist, then the game would feel weird and awkward and probably suck. So now we have an answer to, I'm going to hold my combo piece, this low-powered Cerebro Mystique combo in my hand until the very last moment I can play it. And now you can't do that because Silver Samurai says hello.
And I've been liking cards a lot more in Conquest than the Ladder. I've been like, oh, this is a Conquest card. I actually think Silver Samurai, he'll be great in Conquest. But in Ladder, they can't just leave. Like, you're matched up. You play your Silver Samurai, they lose whatever they just lost, and they're committed at that point, right? Whereas Conquest, it's a battle of attrition. You know what I mean? I feel like he's the perfect man. He's the perfect ladder card. We're going to have a lot of like these good value kind of discard hybrid decks. That's where we're going to see him. Lastly, buddy, a couple other cards that obviously just major disruption. No-brainer, man. Iron Man. He's been on a tear the last few months. He's been in plenty of decks. Iron Man is going to be a huge target for this guy. Living Tribunal had a good couple weeks. But if this is still out there, not great. Heck, now we have a king. Counter, in a sense, we have a way to get rid of King. If you're sick of playing him in Conquest, you have a way to get rid of him. And then lastly, like you said, to start us off, Taskmaster, Arnim Zola. These are big boy cards. These are big boy cards, man. And this guy is a 4/5 getting rid of him. And
one thing yeah, absolutely. Like these cards really get hammered and like they attack specific archetypes in a unique way. I want to talk about a couple things like synergistically wise. Like I've been playing in my head like, okay, there's 2 thoughts I have with Silver Samurai that I want to kind of articulate well. First is the 4/5 stat line, okay? I think that the most vanilla stat line for a card is 4/6. Now, Glenn has been extremely good with balancing this game. So when I see a 4/5 stat line, it kind of makes me wonder like, for them to take off of power from 4/6, this effect must have legit value. Like they must have tested this effect to be a very positive value for the player playing the card. So when I see a 4/5, it makes me wonder about, okay, that extra power that's removed has to be in the effect somewhere. So then it gets me thinking, what's the combo that works? What's the combo that gives you the value? And you know what, Cozy? You were a true believer in X23. And I want to talk about a quick synergy that I kind of thought of. And it's going to be my first deck I create with Silver Samurai. What do you think of this? You hold X23 in your hand. Right? You're playing discard. You don't play it out. You hold it. Okay. You play. Okay. You're gonna play your Silver Samurai. You're gonna discard your X23, and what that allows you to do is have a turn 6 where you play your Chavez or Apocalypse plus Stature, because now you have the 7 energy. So Stature gets an additional opportunity to be played. So now it's not just Swarms and Apoc or Swarms and Chavez. It's Swarms, Stature, and Chavez. Yep. I think that's huge. And I think that X23 is going to enable it to happen.
Okay, so I like to snowball on that. I'll say this. We ranked the Spotlight Cache earlier. If you like discard and or good value decks and you already have Darkhawk and you have Stature and you enjoy that playstyle of deck, he will slot in there so perfectly. And I like what you're saying there. In pure discard, he does give you kind of what X23 did for Destroy in the sense of you have a bit more of this flexibility of rolling into these big, massive turns. I mean, you hit the nail. Stature's going to be disgusting with this card. You had to just rely on a random Moon Knight or your Black Bolt, but now you've got a way to know what you're going to discard, and it's not going to always be your Stature, and then you can also be able to get that trigger of the 1 cost. So 100% agree. I think it's filthy. You talked about the stat line. Moon Knight obviously reminds me of the same thing. Low stat line because of his effect being just super filthy. Is there a deck, which I think the Disruption, man, I think it's going to be there, where you have this Moon Knight followed by maybe even an Iceman, because the one spot can be a bit convoluted in discard. You know, it could be X23 if you don't have it, Nebula, but also Iceman. And then if you hit them with the Moon Knight and the Silver Samurai, of course, Moon Knight can ruin you a little bit, but then you have something, a card that I think is majorly going to benefit from this in Ghost Rider, right? Because then you have Ghost Riders like your protection against some of these random cards. So, you know, if Moon Knight does get rid of your silver, you play Ghost Rider, you play both down, right? So I think Disruption discard is going to have itself a good, firm placement in competitive decks. We just have to have it build up a little bit.
I think that the targeted discard effect of Silver Samurai is where the power is, right?
Yes.
Like if you think about right now, like Moon Knight's not even seen in like in modern discard lists because it's so inconsistent, right? It can punish you. It's hitting Hela every time. You know it's going to hit your Hela every time, right? And you don't want that. That's why MODOK is incredibly consistent. Why would you play Moon Knight versus Lady Sif? Well, you always play Lady Sif over Moon Knight because of the consistency of the effect. But I think you're right. The opportunity to mill an opponent's hand is very strong and has to be mitigated somehow. And yes, you can mitigate it with your own swarms and stuff, but you're still playing a dangerous game, right? So yeah, Ghost Rider is going to be a major part of that, because if you do get rid of a piece you really need, then you do have that follow-up on Ghost Rider, which might even come out on turn 5, right?
How do we not talk about Swarm? I mean, guys, just here's a small little play line that I think is going to be bananas, all right? And listen, any deck with Wong is a greedy deck at the end of the day. But I'm fascinated by the idea of Zabu, Wong, Silver Samurai, and you have Swarm in the deck, because then you are absolutely, you're getting rid of 2 cards in their hand, right? After now turn 4, this is turn 4, so they burn through the low power ones for the most part, going into those important turns. And then, you've got now just so many Swarms that you could play for free, and maybe you've got the Morbius 2 cooking if you want to be able to draw that later on, depending on the pulls. I like the idea. Obviously, Zabu is going to have some good synergy. Clearly, one of the best winners of recent OTAs is Absorbing Man. I think he's going to have a natural just follow-up. If you don't want to go the Wong route, you can go the Silver Samurai route. But Swarm here is going to get himself some nice play, more consistent play that's not just the Calling Wing now. Listen, the guy's got a lot of different synergy, but I really think that discard is going to have a different play style, just like Nimrod did to Destroy, and that's what makes this card so exciting.
I agree. And it's going to take some testing to see how it works, because the other thing that's worth noting here is that traditional discard cards are overstated for their effect. So it's much more straightforward to like dodge accidentally discarding a specific piece, right? I think a card that's at risk is going to be like Dracula. Like, how do you incorporate Dracula and Silver Samurai together? Because you clearly, if you have Zabu, like Dracula has to be played first. Like, you can't just discard your own Dracula unless, of course, you have the Ghost Rider line later. But what are the chances you have your hand set up so perfectly that Ghost Rider's just waiting, right? It's like Dracula's a risky one to just straight up discard. Yep,
absolutely. There's no question I'll be doing some Ghost Rider stuff. That's the first deck build that I've got going on with him. But Alex, that is going to take us into September. I've got my Patriots hoodie on, man. It's football season. I'm NFL football and college football, for that matter, is like my favorite thing. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I'm a diehard. My whole life been watching. My dad is from the East Coast area. You're from Canada, I know. But do you dabble a little football?
I mean, in the CFL, our balls are bigger.
What's your favorite team? Is it the Maple Syrups or the Canucks or who?
Oh, it's the Alberta Grizzly Bears are my favorite.
How are they?
Yeah, they're pretty good. They have a running back that's actually a lumberjack. And he runs through trees before every pregame. Yeah, to get hyped up.
No way. Do they hug each other or tackle? How does that work?
Oh, no, they tackle, but if you powerbomb a guy, you get to kick a field goal from the spot you powerbombed them.
Powerbomb. Is there a lot of conversations in play? Like if a wide receiver wants to burn a cornerback, and they're like, hey, do you mind? And they're like, yeah, go ahead, man. It's your time. Or like, how does that work? You guys are so polite. I'm just trying to wrap my head for those that don't know the CFL, you know?
Yeah, so we have a couple different rules. Like one of them is that our field is longer. Our goalposts are in different spots, and quarterbacks can get hit like extremely violently. Like if a quarterback throws a ball and it's gone and it's like sailing away and they're watching the ball, you can still hit them.
All I know is because of you, I'm going to pick a CFL team and become a diehard. Would you join I have a Snap League coming together, or maybe a Pick'em for fantasy or NFL?
Hell yeah, I would. There was a league. Okay, I've been considered amongst my friend groups to be the Oracle of fantasy football. A couple years ago, I was in 4 leagues and I won all 4. Also, my wife's in the league and she like auto drafts, and my brother never sets his lineup, so it's a bit of a sham sometimes. But
your kids are in the league. Like, listen, the league members are saying I'm the best in the league. Dude, I love it, man. Anyway, we digress a little bit. I just wanted to, I don't think I've talked to you much about football yet, and I love it. But let's go in and let's talk about September, all right? September spotlights. I've been kind of holding back. We've had this info for a little bit, but it's time because we're in the last week. What do you start saving up for? We're going to rank them 1 through 5 stars. We've got the whole list with 1 week being a little bit weird. Alex, week 1. This is not going to be the Silver Samurai week. It'll be on September 5th. We have Ghost Spider, Jeff, the Baby Land Shark, and Noel. What are you ranking it?
So it's hard to rank this because you got the repeat Noel, which kind of like, I just want to say, I was kind of disappointed to see Noel repeating so fast, right? And, but I get it. But this is Jeff. We're talking about Jeff. Like, Ghost Spider is a good card. You probably already have Noel if you had a chance to start it. But if you're new to the game, maybe you need Noel. Like, this is a good week, though. These cards are good cards. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of, like, do you already have these pieces? But I think Jeff, if you don't have Jeff, like, this is as close to 4 or 5 stars as you can get. Because I think Jeff's, without question, one of the absolute, if not the best 2-drop in the game. And pushing against as being one of the best cards in Marvel Snap as a whole.
Yeah, so first, variant-wise, Ghost Spider sick. Noel, I'm just convinced everything is great. And Dan Hip, as much as I love Dan Hip, I would pick other Jeff variants is kind of how I probably wrap my head around it. I feel the same about the Ryan Gonzalez Nebula. However, I would agree. I think this is a 4-star week if you don't have Jeff. Jeff is carrying the entire value. And if you have Jeff, it's a skip week. I don't mind the Noel. It's right after Destroy season, so maybe there's some players that like all of a sudden fell in love with the archetype, right? And they're giving them that chance. I understand it's a repeat kind of thing, but I do appreciate kind of that front. Ultimately, though, the biggest reason why I give this like a 1 if you have Jeff is there's no new card, right? And it's hard to kind of justify that. But Jeff carries just so much value, man. Just extreme amounts of value. Now, going to the next week, Alex, let's talk about it. And we have got ourselves Snow Guard, Hitmonkey, and Alioth. Now, I'm going to start out by saying I refuse to believe that Snow Guard's not going to be reworked before this. I refuse to believe that they want to just welcome the anarchy of someone pulling just Snow Guard and their whole life being ruined. However, the spotlights are just, they're sick. That Alioth is mine. I can promise you that. What are you ranking it?
This one's so hard for me because I think Alioth is probably going to be an absolutely insane archetype defining card. Like, first glance at Alioth is like, this card's going to be absolutely nuts.
I actually love that we have a 6 cost now that's so devastating. We need more 6 costs that are like super impactful. Right now we have a lot of 5 costs in that slot. It just, bro, he scares me. He's so insane. He's probably like, it's hard to say he's the best card in the month because of how the other cards are going to affect so much, but he is going to be the most polarizing.
There's 2 things that stand out for me. The first was that the change in cost, I think, was huge. Like, at 5, I think he was going to be completely insane. Like, I thought he was going to be absolutely nuts. And now I just say, okay, he's still going to be pretty crazy, but now a little more kind of in tune. But it's the including unrevealed cards that really kind of cues my interest because that means with initiative, you could like prevent anything from happening. Like, it's just kind of crazy how that works. Like, it's an initiative defining card. You just deny even the playing of a card, so it's kind of crazy. But like, for me, Alioth holds a lot of value here. Snow Guard, I think, is a meme. I think you nailed it, by the way. I'm gonna say it again. You hit the nail on the head, Cozy. I think Snow Guard cannot release as it is now at this time unless they really believe it's better than everyone thinks it is, but I don't think it is. Or
like, yeah, it takes time for it to build up to where it's at or whatever. But no, man, I think there's some avid Snow Guard believers, and even then, it's just they've tried to make it work. There's only 12 cards in the deck, and it just doesn't belong there, right? However, Hitmonkey's good. It's the Snow Guard, man. I just can't make a proper assessment because of how bad Snow Guard is at the moment.
I feel like Alioth has the most potential here, but like, there's a chance that Alioth kind of just falls in its head, like a little bit, right? Like, it's because of the change in cost and everything. I think that like it's obviously less exciting than it was prior, but still has incredible potential. But Hitmonkey's not making all bounce lists. Like, Hitmonkey's getting cut from some bounce lists, Cozy, which is kind of crazy to me. So that kind of brings it down for me. Like, when I'm seeing competitive bounce lists not running Hitmonkey, like, it kind of surprises me.
Hitmonkey's one of those cards. He's not available anywhere else, and he's still going to be that token cost, and we haven't seen him. I don't see him repeating in a little bit. So it's nice to get him if you don't have him. But you're not always going to use him. He's kind of like, I would put him way higher than like 2099, right? But like, he's a card that like, oh, it's great to have, but are you going to use it? So if you plan on playing Hitmonkey and you want a Life 2, that's where I give it a bit of a better ranking. Now, Alex, this to me, as you know, I'm already big on Jean Grey. This is the chef's kiss week. This is the personal week that I'm giving the flashing all lights go for this week. It's absolutely insane. However, it depends where you're at in Snap, because a lot of players went all in on that first week of Spotlights. They already have Jean Grey. Zabu, I would hope a lot of people have by now. If you don't have Zabu, this is a no-brainer, man. No-brainer. And Alex, before we talk about anything, can we just take a moment, just a quick second? He's here. Our boy.
Finally. The Mufasa, yeah.
Honestly, Alex, you could have Snow Guard and freaking Watu. They could just throw in freaking Watu into this, and I would still get it just for the Zabu.
I agree. I'm so excited about getting this variant. I've been storing like boosters for so long. You kind of caved though. I saw you actually used a ton of your boosters on the Dan Hip. So you didn't see it. Do you still have some saved up for the Mufasa?
Yeah. Oh, first of all, it was a gold split with Gold Crackle. I'm happy with my option. However, yeah, I'm down to like 400. I still have like 400 though, man. I have so many. I play a lot of Zabu, right? I do have a lot, but we have been talking about this as our like white whale of a card for so long in the variant department. Like so much so that once this releases, just give me my Jane Foster and I can die happy. Like I'm amped. The Jean Grey, also beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, you're talking about the Jane Foster where he has the helmet. She has the helmet, right? With the Archer, yeah. But like, okay, so there's two cards. I know this is kind of off topic, but there's two cards in Marvel Snap that disproportionately have the best variants, and it has to be Jean Grey as a whole and Null. Those two cards, there is no variant that looks bad. They're all absolutely insane. Every single one of them.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And even the Ravonna Renslayer, absolutely amazing. Now, she's a 3/3 ongoing. I'm all over the place. Ongoing, your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less. So read that again. Ongoing, your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less. As we know, cost reduction, absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. This is a scary looking card on paper, and I think it's going to curve well into Snap. Both her and the next week's new card is going to redefine archetypes and redefine the structure of the game in a lot of ways. And for that reason, she may not slap right off the rip. You know, people are going to open her and they'll be like, well, she's cool. She does okay. Once the lists get refined, she's going to be cracked. Really strong week. Excited about it. I think this is a good one to go after. Lastly, this week, we are missing information. I have no idea who this could be. I'm trying to think, you know, they could repeat a stature. We really don't know what card's going to show here. However, Mobius seems like a pretty good card too. Your cards can't be increased. Your opponent's cost can't be reduced. I mean, it's worth saying too that these right now in the data mines, we don't know that they're supposed to be Series 4, both of them. And if that's the case, I'm all for it, right? Because then you could go after the week you want, maybe this week, and then you just get Mobius for tokens potentially, because then you got the weekend missions to help discount that. They would have to have a really strong card here for this week to be insane, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of who they hadn't featured yet, but again, like they're already starting to repeat Null and others, so it's like it's not going to be Stegron. Like it's like, who are we missing really? It could be anybody, because if they're starting to repeat, then we really don't have a chance to predict, because like Jean Grey is being repeated already, right? So
if Mobius reactivates the Death Wave era, I think it's going to be absolutely insane. So we'll have to stay tuned. All the creators I asked you said the same. They're like, I don't know about this week. It's tough to rate it just off these two cards. So altogether, September, man, just fire. Absolutely, all the new cards I think are going to bring something new to the game. Not like Lady Deathstrike and these other cards didn't. But they were all in one archetype, whereas these create something new. Plug and play. You've got Eliath, who's cracked, and Loki's insane. So, super pumped about September. Let's end on our last subject, and that is ranking the discard archetype. Love when me and Alex do this. We don't know each other's lists. We're going to be going 10-1, the best cards right now in Snap in the discard archetype. And I got to be honest, I still don't like my list. This was harder than I thought because of the importance of when things are played and their weight in the deck. You know, it's not always about the big number make big man happy, right? Like it's what are their importance in the deck, man? How do you feel about your list so far?
I actually agree. This was really hard, and I feel like if I wrote this list like multiple times over, they would change ever so slightly. I think that the top is still the top and the bottom is still the bottom, but like so many cards can just flip like this a little bit. Because like there's also some discard cards which have more universal appeal, kind of like a Killmonger that we made the argument for last week when we talked about Destroy. And then there's cards that just have a very niche appeal, right? So I don't know. I'm interested in talking about the list, and I hope that we're, you know, hey, I'm kind of hoping I actually pull out something like a Carnage on you. I want to see if I offend you once again this week, because last week you got a little, worked up there. Actually, even the comment section got a little worked up with my diss on Carnage.
And the disrespect for Carnage was I won't stand for it, good sir. With that, let's go to number 10. I'm going to allow you to kick it off. What is your number 10 best in the game discard card? Number 10th. Number 10.
For me, I'm putting Lady Sif at number 10.
Dude, me too. Sorry, I had to interrupt you. That's exactly who I had. And she felt perfect at 10. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I got excited.
When you freaked out, I was like, oh no, did I do it again? Does Cozy have Lady Sif at 2 and is going to try and convince me I'm an idiot? I'm like, okay, Lady Sif at 10 for me, because like, listen, it's just a great card. For those that might not realize, in beta, this card was a 2/4. A 2/4. And it's just a good card. I think that the reliability of the effect is so key. So key. But there's going to be times where you're like, well, my highest cost card is MODOK, and now I have to skip turn 3.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Right.
It's funny because there was like 5 cards that could have gone on this 10th spot, right? There's 9 not obvious, but semi-obvious. And then number 10's like, who gets the extra love? Targeted discard is what makes discard reliable. And the more we get those, the better the archetype gets. And we're now, since February, technically, discard has been a powerhouse in Marvel Snap. I've got Lady Sif at number 10. Number 9, Alex. Number 9. This, my friend, I'll go first. I made you go first last time. This is where I have Black Bolt. I've got Black Bolt at number 9.
I can't believe it. We're on perfect pace. Black Bolt's my number 9.
Let's see how far we can go lining up. Right? Okay, didn't this feel good? Like better than Lady Sif. However, you need stature to make him great. If you don't get stature and you only have him, he's weird, but he can be super effective against now something like maybe a death. Black Bolt, yeah, like Lady Sif almost was above him, but I feel like what he's starting to become for the archetype as a whole and not just in the shell is why I have him at number 9.
I agree, absolutely. And the thing that really, it's okay. This is like the thing I've been thinking about with Black Bolt. How do we make a Black Bolt deck that really performs, that does not just discard a rock? I'm so sick of discarding rocks with Black Bolt because the primary shell is that like Disruption Darkhawk shell, right? And then like, yeah, you discard a rock. Wow, super cool, man. Like, I kind of hope that at some point in time, we start getting archetypes that build around Black Bolt that don't have that disruption piece that can maybe start hitting more valuable pieces. I mean, death, obviously you want, but I don't know about you. I hit a lot of rocks.
Yeah, dude, if they gave him the power, well, the rock thing would still happen, but if they gave him the power thing too, that would be insane. I'm curious if he holds on to this spot at all with Silver Samurai. Like, does he get edged out the list because he does what he does, but better in turn 5 is so important? Like, that is what I'm nervous about. We could be seeing the last days of him. Or is it okay to get 2 options now that, you know, you can get the stature pop off? We're going to have to see, but it's funny we both have him at 9. This is where I think we're going to break up a little bit, sadly. But okay, give me your 8. I have mine, but let's see what you have.
8 is where I slot in Colleen Wing.
No, I don't. Oh, man.
Oh,
Okay.
I was almost so hyped up for a sec. Yeah, for me, 8 is where Colleen Wing comes in. I just, again, targeted discard I think is super valuable. 2/4 stat line. You know, you can discard Wolverine. You can discard Swarms. It's just a good card. Like, honestly, it's really the good card of discard for some degree. Like, it's just an amazing stat line early in the game, sets up tempo, establishes initiative. I don't know. I just love Colleen Wing, and I think it's deserving of the 8th spot.
For sure. I had, you know what's funny is I was back and forth here on Colleen Wing and another card here. I had Swarm here, and Swarm is so tough because when you win with Swarm, you go like crazy, right? Like you just get so many options and you take all the advantage of the locations. But then if you get him and you don't have Colleen Wing and then he's sitting there and you have nothing else to play on 2 and you're like, I guess I play him down now. Probably shouldn't because I have MODOK. It just can be weird. And for that fact, I have him down at 8 because he has to have Colleen Wing as his enabler for the most part. Now, Silver Samurai could go into play here. We'll have to see. I have him at number 8. How about 7?
Well, 7's my Swarm. So we just missed each other there. Like, we literally swapped those 2 positions. So we fell off each other by the slimmest of margins here. So we are basically almost neck and neck here with our picks.
Yeah, so I had Colleen Wing. Honestly, Colleen could have been 5. I had her as high as 5 at one point because she's like purely the best 2 power play or 2 cost play in one session. Like just throwing her out there and having the swarms bang bang. She's like a 210. Even the Wolverine also, she's a 2-8. Like she's just so good on tempo. I love her. She's even better with Doc and Shard, right? So I could have put her at 5. It's just, man, this card's got some sexy names, you know? Hit me with number 6.
Okay, you definitely have this higher. I'd be surprised if it's your 6. And it hurt to put it like an archetype defining card here at 6, but like this is where Hela is slotted for me. Is it the same?
Yep. Yeah, I had Hela. Yep, I had Hela.
Really?
Yeah,
I can't believe this.
I thought you were going to have, you've made like 9 videos on Hela lately, so I thought you were going to be high up on the Hela list. And you like just won a couple of games against some streamers with Hela, so I thought you were going to have Hela higher. Hela was one of those cards that you want to put higher because you remember the good times, right? It's like when you break up with that ex-girlfriend and you're like, man, the good times are good, and then you forgot about all the crazy chaos that happened with her. Yeah, I love it. Tell me why Hela for you.
So first of all, yeah, I have that like judge and jury tribunal deck that I've been playing, which is a total meme, but like I have been winning 8 cube games with him because people are like, what is this guy doing, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, tribunal Hela. But yeah, Hela is like, there are moments where Hela might be a good deck, and then you realize like, oh yeah, it's Hela, and I'm actually just gambling. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, people get to infinite with Hela. Like I understand that, but you've chosen a dark path. Hela has no consistency, and it's always one Cosmo away, or actually even the big thing that's killing Hela right now, honestly, it's not Cosmo. We're like, oh, it's the Cosmo. No, it's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man because they pull the friggin' Invisible Woman all the time, and the deck is so prevalent. So Hela falls off because you have your Invisible Woman sitting there like this, and Spider-Man comes in and says, nope. And whether it pulls MODOK or if it pulls the Invisible Woman, you're screwed either way. So
Hela players remind me of those friends that you have that are like, hey man, we're gonna go to Vegas. I cracked the code. I know how to always win in blackjack every time. We're gonna be billionaires, right? And you're like, all right, buddy. And then the guy finally realizes he's in Vegas. To your point exactly. Not saying it can't be done. We've seen people get rich in Vegas. It's just the house is against you most of the time, or a lot of the time, I should say. The house being other players' decks. Number 5, Alex. We've got ourselves, maybe you might think I'm ranking this low, but I think you might have it here. And this is where I struggled because of like the current, I don't want to suffer from recency bias is what I'm trying not to do with this ranking. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it there. I think I'm going to have Stature here at number 5.
I can't believe it, dude. Stature's my 5. Stature's my 5. This is not planned. This is unbelievable. This is the tightest we've ever been. We've only like missed a swap basically so far.
We are at, it's so much so that before we started filming, Alex was like, hey, you know, there's some cards that can be convoluted and discard for the first time. Do you want to just like go through each other's list? And I'm like, no, we got to keep it the same, which I loved because now it's like, this is so authentically cool. Listen, hey, it's episode 43. All right. If this was episode 10, I would say, no way. We're coming on a year, baby, of the Snapchat. Stature, great card, great value, absolutely cracked whenever she was a 5-7. Still very good, going to be better, and probably going to be ranked higher after this week. I have her at 5.
Yeah, Silver Samurai is going to be a huge activating factor for Stature because right now, like, she relies on Black Bolt or Moon Knight, and Moon Knight sees no play. And I think that the targeted discardability and the disruption of Silver Samurai does elevate this card. And you know what? I'm actually starting to think that, like, moving forward with Silver Samurai, I wonder if Black Bolt goes back to a 5-8 and Stature just stays at a 5-6. Because I think when you were talking about Black Bolt, I was like, you know what? You're right. It might die. Like, I don't know if Black Bolt survives the release of Silver Samurai.
We're going to have to see, man. Depending on how that disruption deck goes, and if that's what you're aiming to do is just disrupting rather than trying to get the stature pop off, we'll have to see. 4 and up is where I think is the toughest because at 4 and up, all of these cards could be placed in different orders because they're all good. We're going to have the same ones, I would assume. Number 4, Alex, let's say it at the same time, there's no way. I think we're going to mess this one up. I think I'm going to mess this up for you. Ready, set, 3, 2, 1. Dracula.
Can't believe it. Unbelievable. We are like almost step in step. Dracula is definitely my number 4.
We had this guy as a top 10 best card in Snap. However, times have changed, right? We've now had a lot of ways to not only address him, but also just like the way that the deck's working out and we're able to like lock down and curve off and do all these different things that are different now. Still a sensational card. And he could be easily in the top couple spots. It does depend on the meta, but yes, ultimately I've got him at the 4-0 or at the number 4.
Yeah, what brings him down a bit right now, I think, is the prevalence of Magneto. I think Magneto is, without question, one of the best cards in the game. Like, not from like a just straight up like impact, but it does have huge impact. But it's like an evergreen card that finds itself into many decks. I'm even seeing Magneto being tested in a lot of those Craven Silk decks, right? Because of the ability to move stuff into the Craven location with a huge turn 6 play, where you can even still bounce a Silk around, right? So it's kind of crazy how Magneto's still being experimented with. But yeah, it just destroys Dracula. You're not seeing Lady Deathstrike kill Dracula or anything like that. But I do think that Dracula might have some difficulty with the Silver Samurai list because of its power. So for me, that's what kind of held it back. I know Silver Samurai is coming, and I think the deck design around Silver Samurai and Dracula might need some special consideration.
Yep, agreed. I think Dracula discard, what is known now as dependable discard, will manage and survive in its own way, but he is going to struggle to find a spot now in some ways in those decks, depending on which one is better and more consistent. Number 3 on 3, 2, 1, Apocalypse. Dude.
Unbelievable.
We're going to go.
I can't believe it. Like, I'm actually in shock. Like, I cannot believe we've actually gone step in step with one minor switch.
Outside of the switch, we are literally locked in out of all the cards in the right order is what's impressive. APOC is that card you want to put at like 1 because he's like the freaking man dropping the bomb, you know? I love him. He's always 6'12". Like, you know, like he's always going to be 6'12". If you look at him at that, he's a Hulk. He's so damn good. He's even bigger than that because he's getting up your other cards like Morbius. I love APOC. We don't even need to say much on him, right? This is number 3. He's a great card in the archetype.
Yeah, and for me, it's also cool. Like, one of the reasons why I really like APOC as well is because, like, there's moments where, like, I've been reading the comics and he's coming up. Like, he came up in the Kang Infinity comic, which I thought was really cool. He comes up in the, the X-Men, what's it called? The X-Men animated series, right?
Yep.
So it's like really cool to like see this card that like I'm starting to interact with more because of Marvel Snap, who I had never heard of before. And so like I've actually started to gain an appreciation for who Apocalypse is and what it represents. So yeah, I just also fire variants. All the variants are absolutely amazing for Apocalypse. And some of them are straight up like covers of the, like that one. I love it. That's a cover, isn't it?
Yep. Oh, dude, all of his variants are effing. Even his pixel is badass, you know? Like he's just
That's a reach though. This pixel's
that's
a reach,
man.
buddy. You actually like this pixel?
It's not that I like it. I just think it's better than most pixels.
He looks like Lizard.
It's because of don't look here, but it's because of the the background actually looks pretty good for once. Like it does look in place. I wonder how it is animated. But anyway, let's get to number 2, and this is 2 and 1. We're gonna have the same cards, but it's what order? Let's take it home here. 3, 2, 1. Number 2 is Morbius. Okay. Hey, we brought it home, baby.
We did it?
We brought it home.
And then you finished off with MODOK?
Yep, finished off with MODOK. Let's talk why,
Unbelievable.
baby.
I can't believe it, Cozy.
Dude, that was sick. We have never done that, and we will never do it again. Like, in my opinion, we'll never do that again, because we always have, not only do we not have the same, like, cards in the top 10, this will never happen again. We peaked. Let's end the Snapchat here. This is the last episode, yeah? Just why not?
I guess if you want to end it right now, then we can. But I think there's so much more Marvel Snap to talk about. Listen, there's always something to talk about with Marvel Snap. We can't be premature here. Come on now.
It's tough to retire, not retire on top. But you know, some people didn't like Peyton Manning. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I had listen. MODOK defines the archetype as a whole. Like he has 8 power. You could play him on his own lane where maybe they didn't play a card. You're building up other lanes with our other card in Morbius, and then you can have the discard pop off, the APOC building. Dude, he's so much more than a 5'8". He's like a 5'20" in a lot of ways, which also speaks, in my opinion, to obviously the Morbius, who is often like listen, Enchantress isn't getting played that much right now. This card is so cracked. This card is so crazy, man. His power line 1 and 2 easily. I'll give you the floor to close it on the topic.
Yeah, like obviously Morbius has one of the greatest reaches in Marvel Snap from the 2 costs. Like it's insane what this card is. Like often a 2/12. Like, and we just accept that this 2 cost is a 2/12. I think the challenge for Morbius, honestly, is that like it is traditionally played early. Like it's not a Darkhawk that you hold till turn 6 or whatever. Morbius is often the card that has to be on the board on turn 2 or 3. And the result is that it sits vulnerable, right? It sits vulnerable because you often have your Invisible Woman on 2, your Morb on 3, or some. I actually have been playing Invisible Woman went on 4 to try and like, you know, kind of protect it. And then ultimately you have your Modok into whatever your turn 6 looks like, right? But Morbius is just an insane power spike. And even in like Living Tribunal decks where you're thinking, oh, Living Tribunal, like look at all these big 6-drops you're running. It's Morbius that's often like a 10 or a 12 that lands in the location with Onslaught and you know, Iron Man that really makes the insane numbers get insane, right? So I don't know. This card does so much heavy lifting for this archetype.
Man, it was something special. Something special here to talk about the top 10. I've liked that we've started to introduce this in every week, like some type of top 10 list. Because it has like great discussion about where the archetypes are and just like different feelings of cards. Everyone has a different play style and way they view them. Apparently Discard pretty locked in on the cards. Let us know if you agree in the comments and what your personal 1 through 10 is. We're going to be talking about archetype MVPs on Alex's side. Sleepers for every cost. My God, Alex has one that I'm a believer now. And then PC launched the good, the bad, and the ugly. Another great week here on the Snapchat, guys. As always, we'll see you on episode 44 next week. Absolutely crazy. And until then, guys, happy snapping.